Okay, I think we're good to go now. As most of you probably know, this is going to be somewhat of a special lecture. This is finally the famous ear reddening game that a lot of you have been waiting for. The previous lecture was a two-stone game with the same player, Gennan Inseki, and that one got suspended after 102 moves because, you know, White realized that he wasn't going to be able to beat Black on two stones. So this is the next game that they played. Um, I'll give a little more background just since this is kind of a special game. They played 5 games in total. We saw game 1. This is game 2. This game was played over the course of 3 days. The 21st, the 24th, and the 25th of July, 1846. And Shusaku is like 17 years old now, and Inseki was around like 48 years old, I think. And this was played in Osaka. With all of that said, let's get into the game. White is an escaper. Yeah, he what's the word? He suspends the game when he's losing. Shocking first move indeed. Yep, I'm probably not even going to mention anything about any of these moves because we all know by now this is pretty much just standard for Shusaku's games at that time. The next move, however, is not so standard. White decides to do like an Ogema Shimari over here. More normal would be this, right? And then we would get into like the 100% Shusaku Fuseki. But Inseki decides to do this. It's kind of interesting, maybe work better with the P17 stone, but it does give Black a choice of enclosing the corner. Black doesn't enclose the lower right corner though, he actually does this one, which gives White a chance to get this move anyway. So they both basically took an extension or enclosure for themselves. Now this would still be a really good move, right? This would be another possibility. And if White approaches the last open corner, then we're going to be seeing a pincer slash extension. Really nice move at J3 here. So this would be standard as well. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be here, Vincent, but this is the best pincer if you're concerned with using this wall. It's just a more territorial pincer rather than, a super. That's fine. White wants to Tanuki. A is already valuable in itself, right? Because the Q5 Shimari is like a 5-line wall. So it's the style of the time. I can't say that it's the best move. There's probably some other pincers that are just as good, but this is how they would have played it back then. Instead, it went like this. And anyone want to guess the next Black move? Busy getting sick? Sorry to hear that, Tyrannus. Q15. Yep, indeed, he plays Q15. Shusaku's favorite move. And Inseki counters with his favorite move. Any guess on what that is? A lot of you probably have studied this game before. Yeah. Taisha was Gennan Inseki's favorite Joseki, I guess you could say. So we get immediately into this. Why respond on top right instead of bottom right? This is just the move Shusaku liked, right? So you'll have to ask him rather than me. I mean, we've talked about some of the meanings of this move, right? Like it prepares a nice pincer at A. It prepares to push down or somehow pincer the stone on top. It also raises the position of the D stone and stops. For example, like if I don't do that, White can push, right? Like White can push this down and then maybe build something on top with his nice d14 stone. But if you want to respond in the bottom right, that's probably possible too. I would say it's more stylistic, so I can't give you like a 100% answer. I don't know if he created the Kosumi EJ. I mean, obviously he didn't create the Kosumi move, but this one, I'm not sure if he invented it. He definitely popularized it. It was sort of his thing. So what are we going to do in the lower right now that white has played 2 stones against us? Right, Q5. We want to try and get out and split white stones. That's really, really important. We don't want to get surrounded too easily here. Let's play a few moves. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to get out because white can wedge in, and that's why the taisha is so complicated. Here we have 3 stones and we have to decide which cut we want to fix. B is the normal cut because, or B is the normal one to fix because Q3 is the more important inside valuable stone, but A is also possible. White has to play here, no other move. And now we're in, complicated taisha territory. Yeah, so let's go back and think about avoiding taisha. If we try to play this popular joseki to avoid the taisha, this is the one that aims at A and B are now miai. But white can fix up here. Black will jump out. And now white can play here. And white's going to be pretty happy with this, I think. By the way, the commentator for this game again was Miyamoto, but also mixed in with commentaries from Ishida Yoshio, the author of the famous Joseki dictionaries, and also mixed in with commentary from Kitani Minoru. And what Miyamoto said here was that this variation is better than if, say, white just played here immediately. He likes the diagram we just saw better. So black's going to fight. Also take a look. Black has stones prepared at A and B, so there's no reason not to fight here. Black is prepared on both sides. So we get into this. White needs to help his inside weaker stones first, also more important stones, and put pressure on black stones. Black also needs to help his inside stones. And now we kind of get into an interesting variation. White plays a different move from the standard taisha variation. And actually, this white player is the guy who invented this and sort of worked these variations out. We talked about last time. This white player is extremely strong player. Let me click a couple moves here first. White pushes and pushes. And now let's go back and look at some of the other variations, just refresh ourselves on the standard variation would be to connect. Now, which stones do we need to help now, A or B? We've had this same question before. Good. And last time, Vincent put it the best. The reason we need to help the A stones is because they're surrounded in one move. The B stones are not. So we would get this. White would help his inside stones. This is just, I mean, there's other variations, but this is the most common one. And we can get into something like this. And what Miyamoto thought is that white probably wouldn't really like this because the B stone works pretty good with the Kosumi. In other words, it's not easy for white to like come between there and attack the B group. And the A stone also works well with the bottom. So he doesn't really want to do that. Now, Miyamoto also threw in another fun variation, which is this white move here. He called it kind of a trick play. I'll just show the variation he showed. White didn't help his main stones, so we're going to want to go after those. R8 would be pretty thin, right? Knight's move. We want to put pressure on the stones he didn't help. But white indeed would follow up here. And apparently there's several variations, but this is the one that Miyamoto thinks would be the easiest for black. Just simple to play like this. Just sacrifice these stones and take this tiger's mouth. White goes to get rid of the Aji, and you could get something like this. And Miyamoto said this would be fine for black. Now there's tons of stuff we could probably look at here, but it's a long game with a lot of diagrams, so I'm just going to leave that one as, you know, an interesting thing that you can look at. They say thousands, but I don't know. 1001. Yep, we're in Taisha, Jay. So now white plays here, asking what black is going to do. And this is kind of famous nowadays, probably because of this game. But Shusaku was seeing this move for the first time, right? Inseki was the guy that created this whole thing. Where should black play next? A lot of you probably just know this by knowing it. We got M2, M3. Griffin, we were just talking before this about how you need to read more. M3 can just be push and cut immediately, right? Just push, there's 2 cuts, and something's going to die immediately. What else did we get? K1. I'm going to ignore that. L2. And 3. Yeah, those are the ones I want to look at. Let's just look at these. The correct move is actually A, and we'll try and see why that is. Shusaku actually played here, which is a big mistake. And this mistake kind of led this game down the path that it, that it went down, and kind of made it into a famous game because black got into a really difficult situation and had to fight back really hard. First of all, this one, I just want to say this is way too weak, right? You have to, every time you think about jumping out, you have to consider these 2 cuts. And this is just too weak because we can cut immediately and something's going to die. So that's pretty bad. No, we're not going to consider all of the Taisha variations. So let's just see what happens first. So white sees this, and Miyamoto thinks that white probably was thinking, you know, sweet, I tricked him. I'm going to win this game. So let's see what he does. He pushes one more time to make sure that he is stronger, right? There's no way we can ignore this. A Hane at A would just be game over. So black has to respond to that. And now what are we going to do on the bottom? I find it so funny. Megan is like always really happy when Shusaku loses or makes a mistake. Like it somehow really funny. Yeah, we're going to double Hane. And this is really painful. This is the punishment for N3. And now it's going to be difficult from here. So let's go back and see how black should have played. The correct move is actually the softer move down here on the second line. We can take a look at some variations. This actually depends on a ladder. Right, like you guys wanted to jump ahead at A, which makes sense to try and get ahead, but it's too thin, so we have to back off a little bit. Also, you have to remember that white played twice in a row in the corner first, so I mean, black is okay, right? He got to play away. You shouldn't hope for too much. So in this case, white will probably push again. This is also Sente. And white can't actually play this, but this is just the ladder. If white has a ladder, he can play here. Because where does black want to play now when white plays here? We want to go out, right? We want to go out, but the problem is white can play like this, and suddenly we only have 2 liberties left. And this is kind of obvious, but it's also a useful trick that I actually picked up from Jenny, you know, the pro that teaches on KGS sometimes. Really obvious, but when you have 2 liberties left, every move you play has to be Atari, or you're dead, right? In this case, black actually has the ladder. Atari, 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 and this would set up a ladder, right? If we want to save these guys, then that's Atari, and this becomes a ladder. And this marked stone here is barely not a ladder breaker, so black would actually be fine here. Still annoying, yeah. White could go underneath, right? But black's okay with that. So Kitani and Ishida think that white will play here, since he doesn't have the ladder, and they predict the following variation. Black can Hane and connect to get some strength over here. White is going to try and get more eye space. Run, to the whitest side first. White will live like that. And black can push and not cut, but he can push and clamp. And this actually works. If white tries to cut, black can cut and do this sort of fighting. So that's what Kitani and Ishida think would probably happen if black played correctly. So let's go back to the game and see the tough situation that Shusaku got himself into. This double Hane is really powerful, puts maximum pressure on our bottom group. And this was kind of a big mistake, but Miyamoto says that black plays perfectly for the rest of the game. So you're sort of in for a treat. Let's see how, black plays flawlessly for the rest of the game. He uses the strongest possible variation here. First, he does this Atari, which may seem a little strange, but I'll explain why that is in a second. You might think that maybe he would want the other Atari. He does that first, and then he plays a double Hane here. And he knows that this is going to be a ko. This is the strongest possible resistance black can put up in this situation. And it's going to become a ko though, right? Let's go back and look at some other possibilities. I can make mistakes as long as I play perfectly afterwards. So the worst possible variation would be to capture this stone, because these 4 stones would just be dead, which means all white is connected, and it also means like these A stones, the squares like lose their 5. Sorry, I always count in terms of like the ones on the 3rd line. So for some reason I don't count the B stone. Really weird like that. But yeah, the 5 stones would be dead, and the squares are like pointless, right? Because what are they cutting? They're not cutting anything anymore. So this would be impossible variation. Hey, Bell. Bell joined. So that would be bad. What else do we have? Another variation that would be pretty much just as bad, which I might be likely to play. Many of you might be likely to play as well, is let's try to live here. Funny, Jay. Yeah, this is painful because S1 is Sente. And so white gets to live in the corner in Sente. White got the outside. And believe it or not, Miyamoto just said the game would be over. Just that's it. The game is over. And I don't doubt it for players of this caliber. So luckily black didn't do that. He went for the strongest possible variation. And the reason he did this Atari is because now we have ko threats, right? He knows he's going for the ko. And he's prepared the ko threat, so that's important. And he does the double hane, getting ready for the ko. So we might expect white to start this ko now. White makes a really cool exchange here first, though. More on this in a second. Black has to answer here, right? Has to do this anyway. We can't do this right now because white could just do that. So black has to answer that, and this gives white some cool variations in a second. So we do that first, and then we start the ko. So 39 moves into the game, and we've got this giant ko going. Black already prepared his threats, though, which is great. Get one absolute threat. This, by the way, is called a local threat. A lot of you probably know this, but the ko concerns the A group, and this Atari at 05 would save the A group. So this is considered a local threat, whereas something like B would just be, you know, a normal threat, right, somewhere else on the board. Local threats are hard to ignore. So white responds to that, and we continue the ko. Now, let me show the really cool thing that N2 set up. You might be tempted to threaten like this, because this kind of co-threat actually loses points, right? Like this helps white. White is actually gaining something from this exchange. So you normally don't want to do that, but black's in a really tough situation. So why can't black do it like this? This has to do with white's preparation here. This is really, really cool. Check this out. Atari. 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 And yeah, you can capture back, but now I have time to fix. And black just died. No ko. That was awesome, huh? Like, mad respect to white for playing this right now, seeing that ahead of time, right? That's so cool. So cool. Wait. What are we waiting for, Vincent? Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Belle. What's the question, Vincent? What is a little broad or vague? How can you read that? I don't know. Oh, what's that thing called? Oh, what's the famous Tesuji book called? It's escaping me at the moment. The famous Japanese book of like ridiculous Tesujis. No, not GoProblems.com. Not Gokyo Shumyo. Yeah, Ego Hatsuyoron. Do that. If you can do that, you can read this. And I'm sure white can do that. Okay, so white doesn't actually have any like real threats. So he's just going to help his group that's concerned with the ko. So he's just going to come out here. Black knows that he has one more ko threat here, so he answers one time. 05 gives like 3 ko threats, while M5 gives only 1. No, I think you missed something for TC. If you play here, black will just die. That's what we just looked at. This might look like a threat, but this is what white has prepared with N2. So Atari, 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 no chance. And then white just comes back and fixes. Are you saying if that didn't exist? That's kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a moot point because that does exist. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes if you can get more threats, that would be more important than getting the, threats that don't lose points. But that all comes down to the situation, situation by situation. So black answers once because he knows he has another ko threat. White gets to take the ko. Black, this is his last threat. Now I know you guys are saying there's more threats because you're like thinking of doing A instead of B. But black really does not want to do that because that just kind of like ruins everything. So he wants to do this sort of thing, right? Because these stones are not necessarily alive. Yeah, it would just ruin it. So he's going to do it like this. This is his last code threat. And now black knows he has nothing, he has no more code threat, so he has to ignore now, which he does. He just finishes off the ko. And that means white gets to come through here. And the next move is pretty amazing too. A lot more subtle though. Black plays here. No. I don't think so. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think that's a threat, Lil. Yeah, this move, Miyamoto said that he could never find this move by himself. And we're talking about a 9-dan professional said that about this move. He said he would never be able to find this, which is kind of interesting. The normal move would be here, right? This just seems like the normal thing you would do. Let's just block. White is going to capture one stone. Now notice we've helped him to capture that stone in a sense. That's the really important thing here. We're going to see in a second. And then now black would either fix here or perhaps at A. And now the thing to notice is that black capturing at B would not be sente. So let's take a look at that. Let's assume white passes. Wow, that pass was really loud on my side. So we pass, and now the question is this capture sente? So to find out, we need to pass again. And the answer is no, because white has 2 eyes, right? So when we play like this, the capture at S3 is not sente. And the whole meaning of this move is to allow A to be sente. Really just, they're looking really deep here. This is really cool. So let's take a look. White gets to attach here and pull back. So it might look like white's getting a little more. Black's going to fix his cut, but first he takes his sente here. And now he fixes. And A would actually be a sente capture now, which is a really big deal. Such a big deal that white connects here, which might look like a slow move to you guys, but that's how kind of important the situation is right here. Otherwise, black will get this for free. So let's take a look. If we pass, let's see what the difference is now. Well, the difference now is that we haven't helped him capture A yet. So now let's pass again to see if this is sente. Now the difference is we can do this. Right. Mr. Shusaku backwards has noted the more important thing here. So that would be dead for white. And he doesn't want, yeah, red's got it too. So one of the main reasons white connects here is because now B is sente for white. And that's going to really help his 3 stones, right? That's important. Okay, great. Hopefully that was interesting. Black's going to help his 3 stones in the center for now. He jumps out. And indeed, this is sente. So white takes it. And white doesn't want to be attacked, like around A. So he extends here. Now, how do we link these guys up? We probably want to get our 4 stones to safety now. Just nice and simple move here. Nothing fancy. Yeah, good. Just cap. So those are connected for now. The other thing is that this kind of creates a wall. So black has kind of like a Fuseki Mii now of like playing something on the top, getting a nice extension on the left side from this bit of a wall we have now. White thinks the wall is more important. So he extends and he uses our rule, right, of allowing a two-space extension. Doesn't J4 for white threaten to cut? Sure, Merrick, but is that something we want to do right now? Like, say you play J4, maybe black responds, maybe black ignores, right? But right, like for at this moment, the top and the left side are huge. So also, maybe this will help. It's really not easy for black to separate the G3 stone because this part is thick for white. So he's in no hurry. So yeah, yeah, it would make the wall stronger, red. So white just reduces this, and that gives black the other move that I mentioned. Yeah, nice big play on the top here. It's a pincer against A. Um, Also, black could play like B or C next to really try and limit what white has up here. C would be like the calm play, but when white has like the large knight Shamari, you can actually play close at B because it's thinner and that would threaten something at D. If this was a small Shamari, I don't think Miyamoto would suggest B as a possibility. Okay, let me see. J, is B just trying to force P17 to run? He would probably like that, but I think he's just playing in the biggest area of the board for right now. N5 so heavy. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so the commentary actually didn't say anything about that at all, Bell, but in a second there was a comment that it's not easy to attack that group. So we'll see that in a second. For now, white just plays here because he feels it's the biggest, right? Like we're getting a double wing, stopping black from playing some of those moves I just showed. And so what do we do here as black? Probably we want to follow up against the A stone, right? Because he didn't help the A stone after we pincered it. Yeah, O16 is one of the main moves you want to think about. But here's my question for you. My tone probably gives away the answer. How sure are you that making influence with B is going to be useful? Are you confident about that? I certainly wouldn't be. Um, Bell would be confident. Would you be confident against Gennan Inseki? Yeah, Miyamoto actually thinks that B would not be. It's too like I don't know. It's like a big dream, but we're not certain enough. So Shusaku actually goes for the more like practical move, right? Yeah, this is the one you want to play when you're not sure if you can do this, because the problem with this is the A stone can still live. Oh, yeah, that's an important distinction there. Yeah, so this one you're really banking on being able to like hurt this B group, right? Well, you have to make the stone efficient, right? You have to make it useful because this means you're probably not going to get the territory up here because white can live. So it means you have to be able to do something in the C area, which is, I don't know, it's not as practical, I guess. So he goes with this one, which I thought was interesting. And now white plays here. So white definitely was concerned about this group, right? He's helping his weakish group and he's also preparing and already kind of like neutralizing some of black's influence. Miyamoto, he put it in kind of a cute way. He said that O10 also like gives some encouragement to the B stone. I think that's a good way of saying it. It's not like it really helps it, but it kind of encourages it a little bit. Black jumps up here, and what they thought about this was that this was pretty much the best way to go about here. If we just try to take this, which we can, they felt that white can just do this sort of thing to, make that sacrifice smaller and just grow the moyo. The other diagram, which was given by Kitani, I believe, is that if black tries to cap here, again, this would be, he feels that this would be enough, this type of variation. Just over-concentrate black somewhat and grow the left side. So this one is kind of, it's still hard to do something with the A stone, and also L15 is preparing for an invasion along the top. Interesting, K15. Probably just because K15 leaves the knight's move, right? With this jump, it's stronger against, it's stronger for this area, and also you can still invade on the top. So probably no need to Keima. Keima would be good if you're like bearing down on a weak group. Or if the top left was much more important than the top right, but I don't think it is. So he just goes with the normal jump here. And now we get a really beautiful move from white. I like this move a lot. Or maybe J16 or something. Well, J16 would just give the top, right? We don't want to give the top because this area is too thin, right, Vincent? So you would be touching a weak stone, not a strong stone. That's why no J16. Severe attack possible. I'm confused. Oh, that's way too far away. Like if you're thinking this type of thing is going to have any real effect on this group, that's too far away. Like it's basically alive already, right? White took the time with O10. He already took the time. Yeah, this is a big dream. Big, big dream. That would just be giving away the top. I understand the idea, but I don't think it's correct in this case. I guess I would say, Vincent. This move is really beautiful because it prepares to attach at A or to jump in at B. And one thing we have to remember is that these black stones actually are not connected. So this move has like somewhat of a miai going on. Remember how we gave some encouragement to the C stone? Now we're really about to use it if we get to attach at A. So it seems like there's a miai here, and this is kind of like another big test for Shusaku. And he answers this just beautifully. I would too. I would too. I'm glad you said that. Shusaku does something way cooler though. Let me click a couple moves. White's going to answer that, but he gets this, exchange in first for Aji. You guys are going to be amazed with how, no, just wait, Vincent. Wait and see how beautiful this is. He's not trying to cut. He's doing something very, very specific. He makes two exchanges here. So let's just start with that for now. Now this move that Ukasus mentioned, I would be so happy to find this move. I would be like, oh, you were aiming at two things and I stopped both of them. I'm a genius. Miyamoto's commentary on this was that, yes, this stops both of the aims, but Shusaku would never play such a spiritless move. And I was like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm easily pleased. See, that's the problem. Spiritless move. Yeah, so Shusaku goes for more. And okay, so let's try to analyze what's going on here. First, let's say we just do the one thing, right? We take this area. Now the problem is white's going to do the other thing. So let's see how this would turn out. We get a peep, we can attach, and this is pretty much one-way street fight here. White has to connect that. Black can cut and extend. Notice the A group has been cut off. One-way street. Like, it may look confusing, but not a lot of choices. A street fight. Yeah, maybe a street fight too. Street Fighter 2. Atari. And need to get these guys out, or that's just a ladder. And now it seems like, okay, so you have to imagine A for B is Sente, so black has 4 liberties, and white has 5. So, yay, black died. So that's no good. So let's see what, if anything, changes with the exchanges that black made, because now he actually goes back to this move. And now we see white playing here instead of jumping in, which allows black to jump across. So the meaning behind those exchanges from earlier, I personally find this just beautiful. Now black has this and that. Isn't that amazing? Like, I would be so happy if I planned something like this out and it just worked out like this. So cool. Yeah, he prepared it and white couldn't really come. Strategy. That's really funny. That's pretty funny. Okay. White plays somewhat of a slow-looking move here. It's not actually Sente. This move is super thick, though, and it aims at some stuff that we're going to see later. This move does not go to waste at all. Now, the local move for black would be B, right? We normally don't want to let white Hane there, but it's not actually real Sente, so black doesn't answer. He does something else. He just does something else. Yeah, it would be very slow in this case. You have to read out if these guys are safe, but indeed they are. Actually, I need to go back to here though. So at this point, Miyamoto pointed out that you know, the fight starting from black's mistake at N3 has been resolved, and his judgment is that black has lost his first move advantage already. So, like, even game from this point was his judgment. And he even used phrases like uphill battle and things like that. So black is trying to do more. Instead of Nobi Hikihane. Oh, thanks for pointing that out because I forgot that. Yeah, Miyamoto says if white does that, black will just crosscut. Nothing else was said beyond that, but clearly black's going to cut here, and it's going to be a fight. Black's probably going to be okay, I would guess. So that's why white just extended. Also, this one, Miyamoto pointed out that allowing black to play A next would be unbearable. Pros say that a lot. Allowing such and such would be unbearable, and that's just their, you know, reason. Okay, so black tries to do something down here. He makes some Sente exchanges. Yeah, you just have to trust them on it, Jay. Make some Sente exchanges. Yeah, it is, isn't it? So now he has like A for later, and then he plays his invasion that he was aiming at with A. And white says, I was aiming at an invasion with my B stone, so I'm going to do that. And he plays this attachment, and we can see we've got, you know, the IG stones, we've got the thickness that white took the time to make, and we've got the A stone. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. So let's see how this works. Black blocks. White extends. And now black plays here. This is an important move. Black plays there and then connects, right? Not just here, because that would be pathetically easy for white, right? So we have to make, why not L18? That's a good question. Are you saying from the after M18? Oh yeah, I do know the answer to that. There's a bunch of variations for that. You're gonna love it. Don't worry. Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about next. So black plays here, and Bell's instinct is correct. Like, why are we doing this? This allows white life with A. So if we want, we want to connect here. But actually, this has a bunch of trouble. But so let's try it out. Let's see the variations that they showed. White will push. By the way, just to spoil the conclusion, it all has to do with this A stone white prepared. White will Atari. White will cut. I suppose you want to stop me from connecting. Now white Hane's here, and suddenly black cannot play at A. Beautiful, right? We've just killed black on the right side. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, it's so awesome. There's more variations though. Miyamoto points out that the timing is very important. If you cut first, then when black plays here, the liberty lost here matters. It's very important because now when white plays this Atari, black has a better move. Oops, right? Now we're getting squeezed. If we capture, we're clearly getting squeezed. If we connect, we're still getting squeezed. So that's not going to work. So the order is really important. White has to Atari here first. And for instance, if black tries to do this now, it's different. Because if white connects and black captures, we can do this. And then we still have our Mii of A and B. And let's see what else. If black plays here, this ko would be just way too unreasonable because how many ko threats do we have in the A area? So all of that is why black actually had to connect here. And it all comes back to the B move. That's why I said earlier that the B stone did not go to waste. Really amazing, right? So now at this point, white sees, okay, I can live. These stones are going to live. So let me do my sentes now. Almost just broke the tree. Okay, so he is going to use all his sente moves here. Sente, 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 sente. And now he finds another really cool vital point here. It's actually a sacrifice stone. This is like the vital point for shortening the liberties of black. Let's just see what happens first. Black pushes and captures that, but the liberties are still a problem. Black plays here. And after all this, still sente, so black has to come back. So you can see that white actually solidified this whole area in sente. Let's go back a little bit. If we just played this, for instance, black can play here, and now white is going to lose sente. He needs to reinforce here. If he doesn't, black can cut like this. And you might be wondering, A just lost a liberty, but black still has just enough liberties to be okay here. So this move was really important to keep Sente. So he got to do that in Sente. So he does all that first, and then he comes back and lives with this group. Another slightly interesting move here, white plays down instead of the capture. This is a subtle thing, but the only really reason for that would be white doesn't want this one to be Sente. So in the game, only A is Sente. In this case, both A and B would be Sente, right? Because B allows black to play C next. So he just went with this one to not give black that option. Okay. Black plays an asking move here. Sounds like a personal problem. Isn't K19 like using a code threat? I wondered. I had the same question, Vincent, so I don't know the answer. Doesn't want white to do it. Good enough for me. Yeah, it does help F17. That's good enough for me. I had a slight wonder about it, though. Here, white follows the rules. He just extends to leave fewer forcing moves. Aha, interesting. Interesting. Why is that? You don't know yet? Okay. Work on it. Miyamoto points out that this move would just give black a good move here. Yeah, that would make sense. I understand like your instinct there. So white doesn't want to do that. He's not going to leave the forcing moves. Yeah. Here's another really obvious thing that I kind of realized just recently. A lot of times, like when I don't understand a move in a pro game, I kind of just disregard it. And then it just occurred to me that those are the ones you can learn from, right? It's like you don't understand it because there's something hidden there that you don't know. So it's nice to try and figure them out. Yeah, so black makes that exchange, then he jumps. What Miyamoto says is that if you just jump, then white will force you like this. So that's why black made that exchange first. Because at this point, now white can only play A, not really B. So nice, nice. Okay, let's see, where are we at now? So now white plays this extension. Essentially, this C and D are kind of like a miai for points. If white takes one, black's going to take the other. So white does that one, and black takes this one. Now, Ishida said that if he was white, he would take this one. This was his opinion. And then if black took this one, then he would defend here. So that's what he would do. But we played like this. And now is when the interesting stuff starts happening. White plays here as if it hasn't been interesting so far. More interesting stuff happening. White plays here to kind of like preserve the weakness of this group, right? Like especially if you consider all his thickness in the center. Also, if he doesn't play here, this move would connect it all up. And furthermore, it would have this follow-up. This would be Sente. The only way to live now looks like here. But that makes this move Sente. And white is actually aiming in the game. White is actually aiming at a placement to Tsuji at A. Um, but if he allows B to be sente, that placement to Suji is gone, which means the corner is just black's points. So that's part of the meaning of this move right here. Okay, so who wants to give me the next move? The famous move. The reason this game is so famous. Yeah, the famous ear reddening move. So I guess we need to talk about this for a little bit. Most of you probably know the story, but I know Belle said she never saw this game before, so I'm kind of excited to be able to share this game with the Sixth Dan. And I'll share the story as well. Essentially, there were other Go professionals were reviewing the game in another room. Are you serious, Theo? Oh my goodness. Wow. So you're gonna have to watch the video later. Don't worry, I record these and upload them so you can watch the video later. Um, but yeah, there were Go pros reviewing this game in another room, and every single one of them agreed that White was winning the game. None of them questioned that Inseki was winning this game. Um, but I guess there was a doctor there as well, and he said that he thought Black was going to win, and they were like, "How can you say that? You're not even a Go player." And he said that he noticed when Black played this move, um, Gennan Gennan Inseki's ears turned red, right? Yeah, physiological response. And he said that probably meant that White was upset with this move somehow, like it caught him off guard, so he thought Black was going to win. And this is kind of like this cool turning point in the game um, that we can look back at later. Let's go back a little bit though. I realized I forgot to point out a couple of things. First, just as a point of interest, this was the final move played on day one. So after this, they stopped for the day. The first day was played at the residence of like a Go patron named Tsuji Chujiro. And the second day was played at the house of a guy named Gensai Ichiro. So we're still on the second day. But Kitani provides some alternative moves instead of the ear reddening move. So let's look at those. Kind of like the gut reaction here is to separate this. Assuming White plays here and Black cuts, Kitani guesses that White will play the biggest territorial move, which, believe it or not, is up here. Yeah, you did, Bay. Um, and so what he pointed out is that, first of all, because of the A stone, White is already alive on the bottom, and B will not be sente. For example, if White plays Atari, we just connect, and this is not sente, A, B, Miai. So we may lose our placement to Suji, but we're not going to lose it in sente. And White still has Aji with the A stone. He can think about pulling it out later. So Kitani felt that Black would feel somewhat uneasy with that result. You can't really say it's terribly bad, but maybe uneasy. The other thing, though, is that White doesn't have to play like that. White can play like this and ask Black to cut with ridiculously bad shape, right? Do you want to cut with an empty triangle? Ouch, indeed. White can push a couple times and then take this Atari. That hurts a lot. That's what the doctor said, EJ. He said his ears turned red. No, Kitani said that White would push twice first and then play the Atari. And then from here, he suggested two variations. One, White could just push, 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 push. This is normally not good to do, but White could push, 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 push. And let's compare what White is getting, and let's compare what Black is getting. Black's moves are completely negated by the A thickness, plus it seems like he even owes another move. And White's moves are all useful towards the left-hand side. Maybe, Vincent. That wasn't a Shusaku game, but maybe like when we're done with this series, I can take suggestions. The other possibility he suggested was maybe White won't push from behind. Maybe he'll just jump away. The meaning of this is I don't want to push you because I want to attack you from the other direction later. Yeah, the blood vomiting game, Joa played 3 Tsuji in a row, like 3 crazy Tsuji in a row, I think. So one more Kitani diagram to look at. What if black just takes the biggest point, the biggest territorial point? Let's do that. It's going to be Gote though. Now the problem is Kitani doesn't think black can be very confident about this fight. Maybe okay, but not very complicated, or not very confident. Yeah, I know it's a lot of diagrams, EJ. Maybe, Vincent, maybe. Giving them up actually has to do with this move. So now let's talk about why this move is good. We've looked at some other possibilities, but let's actually talk about why this move is good. Basically, you can just look in every direction, and the merits of this move just add up. Number one, it's growing the moyo, right? Number two, it is negating White's thickness. Number three, it is either helping the 3 group or allowing us to give it up on a smaller scale, like Vincent suggests. Number 4, it is preparing to reduce or invade the left side. So it basically does stuff everywhere. And that's why it was considered to be like a once in a lifetime move, even for someone of Shusaku's caliber. Yeah. It's the famous shining move. Is this Kami no Ite? Maybe. From my understanding of watching Hikaru no Go, though, they kind of referred to Kami no Ite as the perfect game, whereas this is just one move. Unfortunately, Black played the B mistake, so we can't. I guess we can't call this game Kami no Ite. Too bad. Maybe this move though. Yeah, this move is actually in the anime, which is interesting. Moving on. Just play it randomly, yeah, without like knowing why it's so great. That would be pretty cool. Okay, so White plays this real quick. Black responds. And White starts raising the left-hand side. We definitely wouldn't be super impressed with it. I agree, Jay. I agree. And it took me a long time to actually understand why, like begin to understand why K11 is such a nice move. And it probably wouldn't even be famous. Like even if this game happened exactly as it did, but you know that little anecdote with the doctor, like the doctor never pointed out that White's ears turned red, this game would probably not be as famous, right? Even though it's still a beautiful game, it wouldn't have the story that, you know, kind of made it so popular. Anyway, White plays here. Watching a 9-dan game, move that's commonly played by 6-dan, everyone gets excited. Yeah, I know what you mean, Bell. I know what you mean. Sometimes I get really excited by 9-dan moves that I could have come up with because it just makes me like feel better about the judgment of the move, right? Like, oh, it really is a good move. Let's look at some other things though for White here. First, if White plays here now, Kitani points out that this just becomes like perfect, right? Oh, A is ready to go. Now, if white really wants to attack the 4 stones, maybe he can't push from behind then. Maybe he just has to cut here and say, okay, I'm going to attack you from the other direction next. But now, since we have the B stone in place, it's just too easy to give the 4 stones up, especially considering white just played an extra move at K5. Some of the stronger players will understand that. Once that white's played K5, he's going to play another move to capture us. That's too small. So Kitani says black will just ignore and invade the left, and that no matter how white goes about attacking these 4 stones now, it's too small. Yeah, so many comments. I'm sorry if I'm missing stuff. If something's really important, just like, I don't know, try to say it multiple times, but I can't read everything, unfortunately. White plays here. So where do we want to play as black now? You say it in caps lock. Be a jerk about it. Ruckus fell asleep. D11. Close. Close. You have the right idea, Jay. We need to reduce this left side. Miyamoto points out that this move would be petty. It looks good, but it would just give the lead back to white. Solid lead. By the way, he pointed out that just because this A move, this ear reddening move, is so amazing does not mean that black is suddenly winning now. It just means that it's like kind of a turning point. He's not necessarily winning. Oh, I'd like to hear your reasoning, Bell. Yeah, good. Simple reason. So if their area is bigger, you should be reducing. If your area is bigger, you should be building. Go is really simple once you get down to the basics. So black goes to reduce. And we get into some normal looking stuff here. And then white says, I can play a brilliant move adjacent to Tengen also. Both of these moves are really awesome moves. So this one is, again, it's aiming at attacking, these stones. Yeah, black got there first. And it's also aiming at attacking the left side stone. So this move they saw as being really nice too. Black tries to help the weakest ones first. Plays a loose connection here. So still Aji, right? This center fight gets complicated, so I don't know. Buckle your seatbelts, I guess. So white's going to go after the group black didn't help by jumping here. And now black wants to help these guys. And this is interesting. So the natural move for white here would be A. A natural move. White actually plays here though, because he's still aiming at the bottom left corner, is Miyamoto's comment. And we're going to see that because he does that soon. This would be another game, right? White extends, black attaches, and we continue a completely different game from here. Yes, thank you, Bell. Yeah, that cut turns out to be a big part of the center fight, so thank you for pointing that out. So white does that, which allows black to fix this guy up. This was the last move on the second day of play. Yes, she is. She's a very good player. And so I guess that makes this the first move on the final day, the third day of play. White plays this move, right? This is really important that white does this because remember, white already like kind of invested in this Aji. Like it was part of the reason he played the A move. And he wants to make sure that it's good. And this part is pretty deep, I would say. Like, where do you guys expect black to play? Probably f2, right? At least that's what I would expect. Some sort of disconnection. Yeah, it is hard to respond to. Let me click black's move. Black actually launches a counterattack. And like I said, this is pretty deep. So let's just try and look at it. If black plays the normal move, white will just play like this. And now the cut at A doesn't work, but there's still a clamp. So you can see first of all, white's getting stronger, like the C area, and the corner's getting smaller, and the B clamp is still there. So that's too annoying. So he doesn't want to do that. Maybe we just gobble this stone up. What will white do in this case? Close. Nice, Ruckus. Yeah. This seems like the natural move, right? Like this is the move you would normally play, but white actually has this counter Hane, and there's different variations, but let me just show the basic idea. Black has to connect here. If he captures, that's obviously pretty bad. So he's got to capture, or he's got to connect rather. And now we have A, B, Miai. So that would be too much for black to deal with. So essentially, black doesn't have a good answer to this move. And, Belle saw it right away. She didn't have time to do all the reading, but she feels that it's hard to answer this move. Shusaku came to the same conclusion. He's not going to answer it directly because he can't find a good answer. So he launches sort of like a counterattack here. And what's kind of funny is that white comes to the same conclusion, actually. He says, I don't have a good answer to your move either. So I'm going to counterattack. Let's see why that is. This is another subtle thing that I really I love this sort of thing. If white answers here, try to appreciate this now. If later we get into the same variation we just looked at, A is a completely wasted stone. If I get rid of A, I'm still connected because of B5. That's how strong of a player Gennan Inseki was. He refuses to waste a stone like that, right? That's how much he's thinking about this. I don't know. That's really cool to me. And as you can see, as Belle mentioned earlier, white is preparing to cut, right? He's either going to do A or he's going to cut in the center. So things are heating up. Black has to save this guy for now. Would white A or D5? Oh, I'm not sure. Good question. Maybe he would do something like D5. You get the idea, though. He would surround that D7 stone. All right. So that means we get to cut, I guess, right? And now our ear reddening move. Our buddy is there to get us out of trouble. Kind of nice, right? We see this stone. We see part of its usefulness coming back. Why didn't white play J6 and cut that way ages ago? J6 and cut that way ages ago. Probably talking about like right now. Maybe too small. I'm not sure. It's a good question, Vincent. It seems like white's trying to get more to me. Also, he just put J10 down, right? And there's another weak group on the board. So it makes sense that he's going to go after the one black didn't help. That's kind of how I like to look at it. With this stone, actually this is a really useful lesson, especially if you're a Q player. Oftentimes there'll be two weak groups. You'll like attack both of them. Let's say you're white. You attack two weak groups. Black helps group number one. And then you, oh no, he defends group number one. And then you attack group number one, right? It doesn't make sense. You attack the one he defended. Normally better to attack the one they didn't defend. But I don't know, J6 maybe has some possibilities too. Unfortunately, I'm the one being attacked. Nice, Jay. Right, very true. This was, in a sense, a contact play, and black had to ignore it. Normally we would respond to that, but there's so much going on he didn't have time. Thanks for pointing that out. At this point, though, we actually are able to try and use these stones together. And we're going to get some more crazy variations here, so prepare yourselves. It looks like these guys are about to get cut off, but it's actually not so easy to cut. So white pushes here. White or black cuts once to make these two stones a little heavier. And then he goes for connection. Now let's go back and look at some more, severe moves for white. Try this sort of thing. Try to cut black off. This actually won't go so well for white. There were two variations shown here. One was Miyamoto's, one was Kitani's. Let's look at Miyamoto's first. That's Sente. And cut, this is Miyamoto's diagram. Nobi here, and now if white insists on doing this sort of thing, black can play this in Sente. Yes, we're giving something up by putting these stones in Atari, but notice we are preparing for a semi-I here. So we can give something up if we get something better. And black will win this liberty race, this semi-I, between A and B. So that's not so good. Kitani's diagram, also not so good for white. Let's look at that one too. His diagram went like this. Atari, Atari, Atari. Connect. White needs to turn. And now when black plays here, notice that we're actually going after a bunch of stones. So Kitani thinks white needs to connect these if he doesn't just want to lose them all, which means black can pick up at least 4 of them here, which is also not bad for black. So there's probably way more other variations, but that's just an idea of why white doesn't go for that cut. We get into this sort of thing instead. In a sense, we'll have some comments on that soon, Paperbird. Okay, next move also shows a lot of foresight. It's like a weird looking move, is what Miyamoto said, but really important. It's an asking move, it's a probe. White wants to ensure that black is going to answer at A, because let's say black gets to play at C7. If that happens, black will answer this white move at B later, and there will be no more Aji. So he is saying, okay, answer me now. That leaves me this Hane Aji for later. He does that. And then he takes this vital point. This is just huge. Yeah, he just does it to get the response so he can use it later. But he needs to play here. What Miyamoto said here is just imagine a black stone at this spot. That's another thing pros like to say a lot to justify a move. Just imagine a black stone there. H8. H8. That would be a little premature, I would say, Megan. But he does something in the area. No, I don't. That's true. You do need to use your imagination. Imagine a stone that's like a one move read too. Pros just want us to read one move, and for some reason we refuse to read one move ahead. So let's see what black does. It would seem like we need to do something over here, but Shusaku has bigger plans. Nice, Megan. Yeah. He plays h6. And okay, so there's like a bunch of stones over here that are potentially having issues. Also, especially like in this area, it's thin. So that was Sente. White response. That's pretty to be expected, right? And now he plays here. Again, looking at the whole group. Notice these two stones aren't dead yet. White had the foresight to make that probe. So white still has B4, the Hane. Right? These two are fighting neck and neck here. So these two stones aren't dead yet, but still, black's going for the whole group. I know it's hard to follow, Merrick. You might have to go over it a couple times. I've reviewed this game many times. White needs to save his whole group now, so that's what he does. He pulls back. All right, see you later, honey. Black has to fix, and white comes underneath. So white's connecting everything. Yeah, there's tons of Aji there. We're going to see later. Just to show really quickly, this would be really overplay because white can push and cut in Sente, and then white will just cut this, and black will die. So this was pretty much forced. But then black gets to play this. So this is very interesting. So Ishida pointed out at this point, he said it's very interesting to compare this diagram to this diagram. Like we start from here. Let me get rid of a bunch of these marks real quick so I can explain a bit better. Lots of practice, EJ. Okay, so remember how white chose to play A instead of B in that Miai? And, black had the weak group and everything like that. Now we get to here. The extension he made has been cut off. And what has he gotten in the center? He didn't get to break the Moyo, really, because black got the Hane at A. Black pretty much, saved his weak group. So Ishida looks at this and compares those two diagrams and says white has clearly run into some trouble here. Black has done well. Interesting. Okay, so let's see, where are we now? White plays here. Again, very big territorial move. Yeah, it is magic. And black gets to jump here. Now, this is another move that has a bunch of insight behind it. You might want to do this and say, oh, I take the whole corner, but the problem is the Aji we showed earlier. Bear with me, this variation's kind of nasty too. Essentially, white can get a ko in this area. There's like actually two possible kos, I think. This sort of thing. And vital point. and ko. So that would be a ko. That would be one of the kos. Oh, also, by the way, you might wonder about this one. But with this one, white will actually just win this fight by a liberty. So that wouldn't be good. Now the other ko is white could actually cut here. Yeah, that would just give life. And could try for this ko. If black extends, then we have this ko. If white captures, we play this, and in the course of the ko, black would have to connect. Then we get into this. How did this one go? This is like a step ko for white. These are really complicated, so don't worry about it too much. The main thing to understand is that the reason black jumped here instead of connecting at A was because there was too much aji to connect at A. And the reason that aji is there is because of white's very well-timed BC exchange. So since black had to answer here, that means white can still get A later. So that's kind of nice. All right. Getting into endgame stuff now, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in this endgame. White does that in Sente, does this in Sente. Gotta keep that separated. And now he gets this move that we just mentioned. And now it seems like black could play A, that sort of thing, right? And get some points over there, even maybe in Sente. So white plays over here. Black has to be aware of all his problems. He starts by fixing one here. Because these stones have Miai right now, right? Can connect the A cut or can connect via like the B area. M12. Yeah, you're in the right area then. Let's see. Right, so white takes away one of the Miais. There's no Komi. These guys had never heard of Komi. That idea didn't even exist. So one of our Miais is gone. So we have to connect now, right? And again, we're threatening to save our stone. So white's going to stop that. Get ready for some more amazing variations. They played this in Osaka in 1846 over the space of 3 days. Inseki was actually born in 1798. Okay, let's see. Notice that if white cuts at A, the two stones are gone. You guys see that? So black actually wants to save those, but he's not going to do it by connecting. He's going to do it by threatening to capture white's two stones. And now white plays this beautiful move. This is one of those moves that Miyamoto called terrifying, because this is backed up by a bunch of reading. And if you get greedy here, you will not be happy in a couple of moves. Black actually has to connect here. Let's see why. This is a fun variation. Let's say this is what we want to do, right? Let's do that. First, white will play here in Sente. Now white will cut, threatening to Atari through at A. We can't allow that. Now you might be wondering, what's the big deal? Those stones are clearly dead. The problem is those stones are occupying liberties, right? From these stones. And so many weaknesses. So let's take a look at it. Let's try to cut these stones off. Black says, no, you can't do that. Now suddenly we throw in here and we play Atari. If white connects, that's Atari. And he's cut off. Let's see, what else is here? It seemed that there was another variation here. All right, if we do this, then that's a ko. And this is Atari. These stones are taking liberties. So, yikes. Black's gonna lose something there. That's not good. So he can't do that. Black has to play strongly here. And white's still gonna use that K14 stone in a bit. For now, he plays here, which was described as a very thick move. But then he just loses the points. So, like you played here because you wanted to keep your points, and then now you, okay, let's say you fix something. Okay, thank you very much, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense, like, because you're going to lose the points that way. So, to be consistent, what is the purpose of K14? You'll see, yeah, Aji. It's really crazy, Paper Bird. Just wait and see. It's really crazy. So this move was described as thick. For example, if we just want to save all our stones like this, black will connect, and that will leave problems at A. So white is saying, no, I want to play thick. You can have my 2 stones. That's fine. Now white's going to start using this sacrifice. Sente, sente. And then we get the second terrifying move. What is that? Now, if this happened in one of my games, I would be thinking this guy is clearly overplaying. But this is all backed up by crazy reading. Black actually has to back off here and let white out. So let's take a look at why. Let's connect and see what would happen in this case. White can Hane, Atari, cut, black has to capture that. Now we can say, are you going to let me Hane in? No, I want to keep you out. Okay, then we cut. Suddenly we're in a liberty race of A against B. Let's have black play the vital point in the liberty race. This is Atari. So we capture, take a liberty, Atari, Atari, take a liberty, and black can't connect at A. So we're going to lose the tail in this sequence. That's pretty amazing, right? And I think you have to consider the whole readout. Like you can't just consider this and say, oh, he read that amazingly. He had to read all of this before playing this one because the other move depended on this one. You feel sorry that he lost? Yeah, that's a funny way of looking at it. Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm pretty convinced he had to read all of that before doing this. Because if he didn't, this move would just probably be a loss. He is an incredible player. He was the highest rated player of the time. So black has to let him save these 2. White's about to do that, but he says, okay, well, let's do this first. since that's all Sente. Okay, then I'll save them. Now we're kind of more officially into endgame. No super crazy stuff anymore. Black plays here, white plays there, and black plays away. Can anyone tell me why play E19 if you're gonna Tanuki anyway? Well, Sente doesn't mean good, right? Right. It's Sente, and even if we ignore and white captures, we already gained something compared to white playing at F19 first, what Dragon's saying. So even though we ignored, we already gained. And you can count the points up yourself, and you'll see that. If it were translated, dude, I'm doing all the hard work of translating it for you right now. That's what this is. Oh, I see. Sabaki, not sebaki. Those aren't words. They're not in a language I understand, so they're not words. Hey, Starstorm, yeah, we're having fun. Just in endgame now. Sente endgame, and white captures here. So what I was saying earlier, notice white has had to play 2 moves, whereas if black didn't play E19 to begin with, he could just do this in 1 move. So E19 actually gains even if you ignore afterwards. It's a small endgame thing there. Do I speak English? Sometimes. Okay, now I lost my train of thought. Right, okay. Black actually plays here to make an eye. This shows a lot of thinking too, actually. If you imagine like all these liberties getting filled up on the outside, eventually black would have to protect against the cut at A, like later on in the endgame. But since he made an eye at B, he's not going to have to do that. So that's actually bigger than it looks and shows a lot of foresight. But that lets white get that. And this is the biggest move now. Endgame stuff. Not very many big points on the board anymore. White plays here. And now we get into this really long ko. It's not necessarily over a whole bunch of points, but this game is extremely close. Isn't E19 Sente for white? No, it's not. Actually, I want to go back now because I realized I didn't mention something. Notice that if black were losing, he could play A, right? So like this move shows that black is confident of his win. He has a very small lead, but an irreversible lead. C11 because if D11, black has A9 Sente. I hadn't thought of that, Dragon, but the reason I came up with for A is that, well, just take a look. That's white's first ko-threat. So maybe he anticipated the ko coming. Maybe there's another reason there too, the one you suggested. But I was thinking like maybe like this. That's one less ko-threat, right? So no reason not to play solid, I guess. In any case, we get into this really long ko here. So let's enjoy this. Like I said, it's not a big ko, but it's a close game. Black pushes here, but now he has a liberty problem, so he actually has to come back, which might seem really bad. But this isn't a mistake. White actually answers, and there's a reason for that. If he doesn't, black can get this Insente, and white actually has to connect. And Ishida said this would be like a 2-point gain for black. If he doesn't answer, there's no answer to this move now, because you can't play A. Whoops, and you can't play B. So white captures. However, Ishida thinks that finishing the ko, white would lose by a little less. That's what he thought. He thought this would be better anyway. But white captures. Ko threat. Black just uses his ko threats down here. Ko threat. That's clearly a ko threat. White Q10 before black saves. Q10. You don't want to save that, Tyrannus. That's called self-Atari. In other words, black can't save that. No? Black playing there is self-Atari. In other words, black can't take it away from you, so no reason to... Well, the point I'm getting at, Tyrannus, is that if your opponent can't remove something, that means it's always yours, which means you don't have to do it. Okay, maybe I need to explain this better. Okay, so let me make sure I understand your question first. You're saying this, right? Are you saying this? No? Earlier. Okay. Tell me when. Now? Oh, it's okay. It doesn't before black S15. Oh, now? Oh, then black will come in here. Yeah, no time to do that. It's a good idea. That would be something you would definitely want to read out during the game. But in this case, it's not going to work out. Good question. Yeah. The first version of your question that I had in my mind didn't make as much sense. That one makes a bit more sense. Glad we clarified that. Just normal ko threats. It's also a ko threat. White says I have a ko threat here too. Yay, yes. They're not normal because 9-Don's played it. Bell is still a little bitter about that. But once you become 9-Don Bell, then it'll be a good thing. So we look forward to that soon. Okay, wait, I gotta make sure I don't screw this up. We have a clean tree so far. This is also a ko threat. Ko threat. These are all pretty simple. I'm sure any of us could find them. And now white gets to use this one. Have to make sure I don't screw up the tree. Doing too well at this point. K1. Not K1 yet, but that comes later. I actually liked Black more in this game because the way he plays his co-threats, he starts in an area, exhausts all the co-threats in that area, and then moves on to a different area. But White like bounces around the board, and I had to just like memorize the order. So White was being, making it harder on me. Shusaku was nice. He had me in mind. That's definitely a co-threat. Yeah, I memorize all the games we review. That that was a co-threat too, right? Clearly. Co-threat. Co-threat. I agree with Ruckus on that point. Now we get to this one. Called it. You feel so good about that. Do you like this one? And this one. White has one here too. Yeah, what Lil said, Paperbird. I could be wrong, but I don't think it matters that much since pretty much all the threats are as big or bigger than the co. Finally, we get to here, and Black says, no, I connect the co, and I win. Exactly. Good point, Yachts. The only part that I sometimes have difficulty memorizing is the end game because I don't have super strong 9-dan end game counting and stuff like that. So sometimes have to just remember the order. And same with co-threat order, sometimes not easy to remember. True. And sometimes, all the diagrams, you have to remember those too. Okay, what's next? All right, White's got to connect this one, or Black's going to take it. And Black saves 1 point here. Oh, that's a doorbell. Give me a second. I'll be back in a minute. Did you guys figure out the score? Not many big points left. This is worth some points. And Black plays here. White's going to take the last point he can get. Ko. White just fixes this one. Black gets to fix that one. Does he suspend? No, he doesn't, Nimbin. White takes this one, and black takes this one. That's the end of the Kifu. So I guess black gets to connect at T1. And yeah, black won the game by 2 points. Congratulations to anyone that made it through the whole thing. I know it was kind of taxing. I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, sure. I'm not going to explain it though. I'm not going to re-explain it for you. This move. You can watch the video later. Yeah, this one. Maybe Paperbird, you can't necessarily say that though, because if black had Comey, black could play different. So it's not really fair. But there, I mean, there is something to say there. Too many comments. I actually want to go back because as we were going along, I realized that maybe I missed a variation or two that might have been interesting to you guys. Two of them, I think. Here, there's a question of why can't white cut? And it's pretty simple. Black can just play here and here, and now the 3 stones would be captured. Forgot to show that one. And here too, I think there's a variation I missed. Or was it here? So why can't white cut? Black can push and then extend and extend. And now A, B, Mi. That was it. Yeah, really impressive play from white, right? I guess I'll spoil like the ending and say that out of the 5 games they played in this series, and indeed even in games they played later on, white was never able to beat Shusaku. He only came within like 2 or 3 points. And also what's interesting is later on in his life, I guess, Inseki told someone that Shusaku was easily 7-dan at this point, at least, in his opinion. So that's kind of cool. No, there wasn't. No Komi. It didn't exist. No, they didn't have that. You're correct, Vincent. There was no such thing as pro-dan. And as you can see, these ranks didn't really mean a whole lot when Shusaku was playing this strong as a 4-dan. 8-dan wasn't Meijin, but pretty close. There could only be one Meijin. Probably Nimbim, yeah. Like if you go back and look at the early games on YouTube, like the early games we studied, when Shusaku was 1-dan, I put him at 7-dan easily or above. Really easily. Now that could just be Shusaku, but who knows? All right, hopefully you all enjoyed. I gotta go now. I guess the last thing is the next one is going to be kind of short. So let's do it not on Wednesday, because last time I realized that that can potentially conflict with Batosai's lecture. So let's just do it on Tuesday. Where's your teaching game? Let's do that later too, Jay. So see you guys on Tuesday. All right.